Thanks for joining us. We're doing Herbs for Resiliency, Adaptogens for Energy and Immunity this evening. My name is Dion Jennings. I'm a community herbalist, like I said, based currently out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm really passionate about connecting people with plants, educating on how to grow your own plants, herbal sovereignty, medicine making, and currently working in herbal marketing as well. And all of our herbalists that are joining us here this evening, which I will introduce shortly, are all registered herbalists through the Ontario Herbalists Association. And a little bit about what that is and what that means is it means that they have proven a certain level of education and have completed a set number of clinical hours. So that is hours spent matching plants of people, so doing consults one-on-one, creating custom protocols, as well as completing a set amount of continuing education every year. So the Ontario Herbalist Association and various other professional herbalist associations sort of set a standard for education and practice. And all of us feel really passionate about sharing our love for herbs and herbalism with you today, but also the nuances of practicing herbalism and what it is that you start to learn and gain and acquire when you're actually working with herbs and plants and people beyond what you might learn in your formal herbal education. So we're in for a treat for lots of herbal clinical gems this evening, and I'm really looking forward to it. So what are we talking about? Like, what is an adaptogen? So I know some of you herb students are going to be like, I know. If you know, put it in the chat. Great, that's awesome. But basically, we're going to break that all down for you this evening. Like, what does that mean? You know, what does it mean to use herbs for energy? Why might we need to do that? What are some other things we need to look at to make sure that we can do that successfully for you? So if you're one of those folks that have been suffering from exhaustion or stress, fatigue, and you've gone to the health food store, you bought a bottle off the shelf, you know, that's supposed to be for energy or has your adaptogens in there and didn't work, this is where we're going to kind of get into that nuance of how we can set, how clinical herbalists look at sort of the bigger picture and work holistically in order to support you and various systems of the body. It's not one herb for one ailment. Once again, we're working in kind of a bigger picture, holistic model here where it's how do we match plants to the person in front of us? How do we match plants to the sort of symptom set that you're presenting, your constitution, on and on and on. So that is what we are going to get into. And I'm going to get started by introducing our herbalists. So I think Ebra's trying to share a screen here, so we're just bear with.
I'm not. Philomena is sharing her screen.
Okay.
It's not me.
Philomena, if you are able to just navigate down to the bottom of the toolbar and just hit share screen and then just stop sharing your screen.
Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, great. I could see something kind of flickering, and I just assumed Abra was navigating there. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So the outline for tonight is, again, we're going to go, each herbalist is going to present their herb that they want to talk about tonight. We're going to take a couple of minutes to answer some questions at the end. And if you're really interested in what we're talking about and you want to go further into an even deeper dive, we'll be doing another webinar a week from today on Wednesday, where we'll be going 2 hours where we can get way more in depth into the topic and the plants. So I know Abra will have the link for that particular webinar up, and we'll make sure that you guys get it if you're interested in joining us this time next week. So, okay, let's talk about, let's meet our herbalists, okay? So first of all, we've got Abra Arneson. And Abra is a clinical herbalist who is currently practicing from home, typically has her practice in Ottawa, Ontario. So she's based out of the Gatineau Hills. She's the author of The Herbal Apprentice, and she offers an excellent herbal apprenticeship as well. Hi, Abra. Welcome.
Hey, Dee.
Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a herbalist, and I think the big thing that I want to bring home today for people, and also it's relevant to adaptogens, is that holistic medicine is kind of a weird word, holistic, because we think of this noun, but it's actually about harmonizing relationships, and it's about understanding our relationships. So it might be the kidney's relationship with the liver, or your relationship with the place you live in, or your relationship with food, or your friendships. Holistic medicine is about relationships more than like, just your body or taking herbs. Because you take herbs doesn't necessarily mean you're using holistic medicine. Holistic medicine looks at relationships. So I think that's the key for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Ebra.
You're welcome.
Next up, we've got Marianne Beacon. Marianne has a clinical practice in herbalism, Reiki, and Bowen therapy. She teaches on all those subjects as well. She lives and works in Peterborough, Ontario. She's also an avid medicine maker, working with spagyric medicine making. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you, Dion. Yeah, so I guess what I wanted to add about that, I guess one of the topics of, one of the questions is, why do we want to use adaptogens, and what would be the reason to use adaptogens? And I guess my question would always be like, do you experience stress? and so in my mind, we live in a world, we've created an environment that's just really stressful. We don't live, maybe even long ago in traditional times, there was a lot of stress then as well. Like right now we have a lot of things that are easier, but we have other things that are also stressful. We're constantly juggling a lot of balls. And so there's, that's the primary reason for using adaptogens. And I think we're going to see a little bit more about all of these different possible choices tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We're looking forward to getting into it. Thanks, Marianne. So next up, we've got Victor Cerrone. Victor is a practicing herbalist based in Toronto, Ontario. He runs and manages his clinic and dispensary there. He's influenced by Rudolf Steiner's system of anthroposophical medicine, traditional Western herbal medicine, depth psychology, and Ayurvedic and Tibetan medicine. Welcome, Victor.
Hi, it's great to be back. And I guess what I'll say to start this discussion on adaptogens and about my own clinical practice is that when we're thinking about holistic treatment, we're always talking about gentle and enduring restoration of health. And we don't want to be intrusive. We want to find trustworthy and non-harmful means through which we can work with what we can perhaps call the vital force. And the vital force is what provides sensation, what provides function, what provides self-preservation, and what animates the material organism, both in health and in disease. And when we're trying to understand the state of health or the state of dis-ease, we're looking at the functioning of the vital force. And when we're talking about adaptogens, there's much that this discussion has to offer on this topic of vitality in the vital force.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Victor. Thanks for being here tonight. Next up, we have Tamara Siegel, and Tamara runs a herbal clinic based out of Prince Edward County, Ontario, where she offers holistic health support to people there. She works with wild-crafted and farm-grown herbs and regularly teaches herbal medicine classes and wild plant ID walks. Welcome, Tamara.
Thank you. Great to be back as well. Yeah, so to that, I think I will add the idea that when you're working with herbs, they can be gentle in the sense that they can be gentle and effective because they will tend to kind of work with you rather than trying to come in and like intercept what's happening with your own body and your body systems and shift the direction that it's going like in an abrupt way. So herbs will kind of meet your body and all your body systems where they're at. They're plants, they're living beings. They're always adapting themselves to the environments where they live. And just like us and our bodies and our minds, our nervous systems are always adapting to the environment where we are. And so we can create this relationship with plant medicines where we take them in and or we interact with them, and they will kind of see where we are, and we kind of feel them out and see where they are, and like we work together. So I guess I'm touching a little bit on the idea of relationship that was maybe mentioned earlier. And so that's a big part of how I see working with plants and people.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Tamara. Yeah, relationship seems to be a theme developing this evening. So next up, we've got Penelope Boudreau. And Penelope has had a career with herbs for over the past 20 years. So she's worked with like from the field to bottle kind of model in all aspects of the natural products industry. She's the founder of the Ginkgo Tree, where she facilitates the Ginkgo Tree Herbal Course and Apprenticeship Program. She nurtures an at-risk United Plant Savers botanical sanctuary, a medicinal botanical sanctuary, which is fantastic. And she's also home of the Back to Your Roots Herbal Retreat. Welcome, Penelope.
Hi, it's great to be here. And I'd love to say hi to all our plant peeps out there. I just wanted everyone to realize that we're all on this plant journey together. And sometimes we're just at different spots. So when I first started, when I think back to childhood or even as a young mother with my kids, it's just great to start to know that it's a mindset and a life just daily, even have a cup of herbal tea, and to ensure that you're bringing herbs into your daily life, whether it's through teas or putting into your food. But to somehow every day incorporate herbs, and say it's bedtime and you still haven't, even to use some essential oil, put on your pillow or something, just to make sure that you're every day making the practice of using herbs in some form, and then slowly that practice will grow and grow, and then you'll want more information and you will grow from there. So I really wanted to encourage everyone's journey from where you are, and thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Penelope. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it. I think you could argue that, like in using herbs and plant medicine every day, we're also nurturing and developing relationships with plants. So on theme. So let's talk about our herbs. Everyone is going to present their different chosen herb for this evening. This is not like the one and only herb that they use. This is not their favorite herb / favorite child of all of the offspring. This is the one that they've chosen to focus on this evening. And like I said, once again, we're going to get deeper into the herbs and possibly a few different herbs in our upcoming webinar. So Abra is going to talk about nettle seed. Go ahead, Abra.
But first, I have to open up with some jokes.
Yes, I forgot. Jokes before herbs.
Yeah. First jokes. Okay, so today I started the day, I turned on the radio to listen to the news. And it's getting worse and worse, the news out there. And I was absolutely horrified to find out that celery has been arrested for stalking. And if that wasn't bad enough, don't make me laugh. If that wasn't bad enough, there was a herb farmer arrested for embezzlement. So I was feeling at the end of that very discouragement. So I took my nettle seed. Okay. Okay, has everybody recovered from those bad jokes? Okay.
We're with you. We're there.
Don't worry. I'm not going to quit my day job. Okay. I really like being a herbalist. I don't know if comedy is my thing. Okay. So nettle seed, very tiny, tiny, tiny seed, big medicine. And there's a couple of keywords you want to think about with nettle seed is one, nutrition and movement, and stuckness. Stuckness, when we become stuck, whether we stop moving, our emotions are stuck, or we're looping through, our thought processes are stuck, we feel stuck in our life. Stuckness is one of the first signs that there's illness or terrain developing for illness, in my experience. Lack of movement in life is a sign of illness beginning, or a place where illness can start settling in. Nettle seed loves movement. So nettle seed is all about creative growth, resistance to disease, and it's also gets stuckness moving. So Old herbalists, old English herbalists, you know, those stuffy old English herbalists who were, yeah, they were very concerned about nettle seed because it encourages lust, and lust was sinful. But if you go back in time, the word lust actually comes from a word that means pleasure and delight. So I think of nettle seed as encouraging pleasure and delight, and yes, libido. So if you have a low libido, no interest in sex, there's a lack of interest in creativity. That's a sign of not only most adaptogens, but nettle seed as well. And so you're going to have like a lot of sighing. A lot of sighing is an indication of nettle seed. A weakness in your muscles, legs, hips, ankles. If you're standing for a long time, pain across your mid back, and a sense of being stuck, and no ability to pivot, to change course. That lack of flexibility is there. So it's not really a classic adaptogen. Classic adaptogens work more on the adrenal glands. Nettle seed is more a kidney herb. Its research has shown that it actually supports regeneration of the kidney when there's kidney disease, which not a lot of herbs do that. There's a couple of other adaptogens that will do that, but nettle seed is very specific there. So I think of it as nourishing the kidney. And when we go into traditional Chinese medicine to kind of understand what's going on there, within the kidney in traditional Chinese medicine, there is the spark of life. And it's that spark that brings the warmth to our life, brings the warmth to our body. So when people feel cold, they have cold hands and feet chronically, they have a difficult time warming up. They have a difficult time with cold, being a northerner. There's that spark is going out. And nettle seed nourishes that spark. The kidneys are like what? It's like some people call that core heat that the kidney holds as like the molten core of the earth. That's our core, and it's very important to care for that. So we can lose that through chronic worry, overwork, not enough sleep, poor nutrition, too many toxins, including drugs, alcohol, pharmaceutical medicine. Caffeine is really a tricky one for this one. Anything that like literally sucks the life out of you is not supported to that little spark that we all carry from birth. So nettle seed nourishes that fire in the kidney. Now, so a little on the phytochemistry of the plant. It does carry, they don't really know that much. It's not a really well-used plant, so it's not a well-researched, the seed. But one thing is it has lectin in it, and this is a protein in our body that's involved in many, many processes. And one of them is it attaches up to bacteria and viruses so that white blood cells can find them and eat them up really fast. So it improves the action of our immune system. And when our immune system is working really well, there's less inflammation. It also improves liver function. And the other thing that I think is really important, and this is really important in terms of an anti-cancer medicine and also for people who are struggling through cancer, is it supports the communication between cells so that there's more harmonious communication between the cells. So the medicine, the green seeds, you don't want to wait till they're brown. You want to go out and get them when they're green. I have no problems harvesting nettle. I don't get nettle bites. I just go out, grab the plant, shake the seeds into a bag. I got the seeds. I bring them home. I tincture them. If you don't want to tincture, you can just grind them up with your mortar and pestle, say a little prayer, put it in some put the seeds into some sunflower oil, put it in the sun for a couple of weeks, take it out, strain it, take a tablespoon of that seed, that oil every day, or put it in your smoothie, make your salad dressing with it. Yeah, and you'll have this like deep nourishment for that key spark in your kidney. Just one thing about nettle seed you want to be aware of is it is energizing. They are definitely energizing. So if you take too much, you might not sleep all night, and you might want to take them in the morning instead of taking them in the evening. And there's all those stories of people taking nettle seed to study, and they're up all night, and then they have to go write their exam, and they have energy halfway through the exam, and then they're just conked out. So be careful with it. But it's local. Ask around, find your local patch of nettle. In fall, go get your nettle seeds, and you'll get enough easily for a year. So that's my nettle seed.
Thank you, Abra. Thanks for that. I just want to mention, if anyone has questions about the herbs as we go along, just pop them in the chat box. You can just navigate to the bottom of the screen and click on chat and put it in there, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go along. Abra, did you want to share a photo of nettle seed for us as we kind of move on to
I'm sharing.
Yeah,
I'm sharing.
I know somebody's going to ask. I know somebody's going to ask. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you, Abra.
Yeah.
It's a cool herb. And now we've got Marianne, and Marianne is going to talk to us about Schizandra. Go ahead, Marianne.
Thank you. Interestingly, we have a saying in class, when in doubt, use nettles. So there you go. It's an amazing plant. Okay, so I chose Schizandra, and it doesn't grow around here. It is a Chinese plant, Schizandra chinensis, but it seems to be calling to me right now. And one of the ways I sometimes think about adaptogen herbs is that they're kind of like our superheroes in a way. So, and then all of the adaptogen herbs tend to work with the adrenal glands, and they help your body in specific and non-specific ways to generally help you to adapt to stress and be resilient. But I find that each adaptogen herb also has sort of an area of focus, and you can utilize that. That's how you can get to know the plant and get to know the reason to use that plant. So, but the thing about Schizandra, it's, there's a photo of nettles. Here we go, Schizandra. So see the red berry, we're not using the flower, but we use it in the stage of the berry. Thanks for that photo, Abra. So it's called 5-flavor berry, which is really interesting because it's holding all the flavors that we're able to taste all at once. So it's sour, it's sweet, it's salty, it's bitter, and it's pungent. It's a warming herb, and it's also a drying herb. And when you get to thinking about how the flavors correlate with our bodies, each of those flavors correspond to a different system. And that just shows us the diversity of this plant, because it has the ability to address multiple body systems and have that adaptogenic building effect in multiple areas. In particular, the Chinese say it works with the 5 yin organs, and so it helps the liver, the kidney, the heart, the lungs, and the spleen. But we also know it to be a nervous system herb, and then as an adaptogen, it's helping the adrenals. So often this herb is one that I use if I'm working with somebody who has, they just maybe have so many concerns in many areas of their body that it's hard to pick just one area to focus on. So particularly when people have liver and heart issues, or they need a nervous system support in addition, like to immune support. So this herb really has, like, it touches on so many areas. It's hard to just say it's an adaptogen that just works in one particular way. It really addresses multiple parts of the body. Because it's a berry, it has a strong antioxidant effect. It has the impact of bringing down inflammation in the body. It supports the immune system as a tonic. It's hepatoprotective, and what that means is it protects the liver. But in addition to protecting the liver, it actually has been shown to repair and rebuild liver tissue, liver cells. And it's a nervine, so it supports the nervous system, but it's also an expectorant. So as a warming and drying herb, it helps to expel excess liquid in the body. So if there's issues with the lungs and there's coughing, there's a wet cough, it can be supportive that way. But it's also supportive if there's other issues of too much liquid. So let's say a person is sweating too much, so they have profuse sweating, or they have night sweats, or particularly hormonal night sweats, like in menopause. You're also going to see it effective for diarrhea or frequent urination. So that's how it helps to sort of dry up fluids. It helps to improve the lungs, like I mentioned, in terms of a wet cough, but it's also supporting the breath. So it can be helpful for people who have asthma, or if there's an issue with shallow breathing in particular, or if there's wheezing, or other issues that are like COPD, where there's a disruption to the breath. So it supports the lungs, it supports the nerves, so it calms stress. It helps with palpitations of the heart. 2 minutes, so you're going to see it be useful if there's palpitations. It's helpful for some insomnias, anxiety, bad dreams, and it's hepatoprotective. I mentioned that one already. But just to know how important hepatoprotective is, it can be really helpful if you know you have ongoing chemical damage through medication use or exposure to toxins. And then I just wanted to also mention, in terms of how it supports the heart, it can help normalize the blood pressure. And then with the nervous system, it helps with, it's really a building herb. So it helps increase the reflexes, it helps with performance, and also the mental activity. It can help clear your thoughts and just help with focus. Yeah. So I guess that's it. There's a big long list of ways that this plant is helpful, and I just love to use it with people who have multiple things going on at the same time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's like, it's starting to like paint a really good picture about how again, like herbs, it's not just one herb for one thing, one herb for one condition, or one herb for one organ. Like there's sort of a picture of the bigger picture we're looking at in terms of like what the herb offers the body, and then there's sort of the bigger picture of how we need to support the body. So I think you did a great job explaining that. Thanks, Marianne. So next up, we got Victor, and Victor is going to talk about one of my very favorite herbs / fungi, and he's going to talk about Reishi Mushroom. Go ahead, Victor.
Okay, great. So yeah, reishi is a medicine that's been used for a very long time, especially in Chinese medicine, though there are different species of reishi, and you can find reishi growing in Ontario, other parts of Canada. So the name reishi or lingzi in Chinese literally means supernatural fungus. So reishi acts as a cardiovascular, lung, immune, and nervous system tonic and restorative. It improves circulation and oxygen utilization. It helps to promote deep sleep, undisturbed thought patterns, provides us with a heightened sense of peacefulness, and helps us to process stagnant emotions that we hold deeply in our body. And so one of the things that is seen with reishi is that in helping to provide deep sleep and also helping to process stagnant emotions, it can often bring up in dreams emotional material that a person needs to really process. And it's not going to do it in a violent or aggressive way, but it's going to bring things to the surface that need to be brought to the surface. So Reishi, you could say, it helps a person to deepen his or her trust in their own innate capacities and potentials. And so Reishi's reputation as an adaptogen, I think, has to do with its ability to teach us how to develop the resources with which we can more adequately confront and effectively work through a variety of psychological blockages, conflicts, and obstacles. And Reishi teaches us how to foster resiliency in the face of distressing and conflicting circumstances and conditions. And these are conditions that we both find in the external world and in the inner landscape as well. Reishi also has a long reputation as a medicine that promotes wisdom and groundedness and calm. And, you know, it has a long tradition in the Taoist spiritual tradition for this sort of reason. And one author has said that this is because Reishi helps us to tap into the forest cycles of life, death, rebirth, and the metabolization of that cycle. And yeah, Reishi's long growing period might have something to do with this capacity that it has as well. Reishi calms the mind, eases tension, strengthens the nerves, improves memory, sharpens concentration and focus, and helps us to build up our willpower. So Reishi, when we're talking about it as an adaptogen, it helps us to find adaptive ways to traverse conflict and to deepen our awareness of the patterns in our lives that lead to disequilibrium and imbalance. Reishi gradually leads us to a greater rootedness in the givenness of our situation, the givenness of our lives, and helps us to, you could say, establish a deeper understanding of and appreciation for our place in the wider world, our place in the reality that we find ourselves in. Reishi is a medicine that typically works over time. It's a medicine that most people benefit from taking over a longer period. And its effects are cumulative. It gradually strengthens the nerves, and also gradually changes the ways in which we perceive life, perceive the world, perceive ourselves. Reishi teaches us how to be comfortable with stillness, with slowness, and how to artfully navigate transformation and change. When we're talking about adaptogens and navigating conflict and the adaptive response to stress, I just thought of this short quote by Carl Jung when he's talking about conflict. He says, "The self is made manifest in the opposites and in the conflict between them. It is a coincidentia oppositorum, a coincidence of opposites. Hence, the way to the self begins with conflict." So the way to wholeness, the way to a greater resolution, the way to a greater sense of peace and groundedness comes through conflict and finding ways to artfully and skillfully navigate that conflict. So paradoxes are made conscious, and when we're able to sit with that consciousness of paradox, sit with that consciousness of disequilibrium, we're gradually able thereby to dry up the sources of that conflict and come to a greater sense of groundedness and a greater sense of peace. So, 2 minutes, okay. Reishi, there's so much to say about Reishi. Reishi is said to work on what in Chinese medicine they call the spirit or the Shen, and specifically disturbed Shen. And the Shen, one of its main locations is the heart. So Reishi does have an affinity for the heart. It helps to restore also deep breathing, cellular respiration, the circulation of energy in the heart and in the lungs. And it allows us to have access to truths that are hidden within these elemental forces that course through our bodies. And yeah, so like I said, the Shen, or the spirit, is housed primarily in the heart. And the heart is, you could say, a locus for psychic and emotional integration, much of which takes place during sleep, which again goes back to this connection of reishi and dreaming and dreams that have to do with bringing up emotional material that needs integration. And it helps to take consciousness that is too concentrated in the head and the brain, and to quiet it down and bring that vitality back down to the heart center, where these stagnant emotions are stored, and to help become, again, conscious of the conflicts and bring those conflicts to resolution, so that we can live more resilient lives. And so that's what I have to say for now on reishi.
Thanks, Victor. That's beautiful, Reishi. So much to offer. I'm seeing a question here from Dawn. She's asking, drink reishi as a tea at night, ? So I'm just going to clarify what that means, but maybe you could just speak to the best way to use.
Sure, yeah. There's different kinds of preparations of reishi. I like to take it as a powder. Yeah, but when the powders that are made from the fruiting body in particular tend to be more potent. So you have to kind of do your research and make sure you're getting a good quality mushroom that's not heavily contaminated, and know your sources, especially with herbs that might be coming from places that are questionable.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of nuance in getting good mushroom medicine. So thanks for speaking to that. Hopefully that answered your question, Dawn. If we need to clarify that, just pop it again in the chat and we can circle back to it if we have some time a little bit later. So thanks for that, Victor. Next up, we've got Tamara, and Tamara wants to share with us a little bit about borage. Go ahead, Tamara.
Okay, thank you. So let's see. So in thinking about which adaptogen I wanted to talk about, the thing about adaptogens is that most of the studies that have been done on plants that we call adaptogens are, they've been done on plants that don't grow around here. I'm really, here in Ontario, I'm really big on harvesting the herbs that I can use as medicine as often as possible. And I'm also really big on encouraging others to do so if they're interested. And so I work with a lot of wild herbs, and I work with herbs that I grow, and then I work with some of these adaptogens that we can't get around here as well, because they're really amazing, and there is all this research showing how well they work. But the herb that I chose to speak about is one that, while it doesn't grow wild around here, it is a garden herb. Now I should mention, nettles grow wild around here, and so does reishi. So it's not like but they were taken. So I chose borage. So borage, it's a garden herb. And in my work, in addition to doing like one-on-one health consults with herbs, I also do a thing that I call garden consults, where I'll go to people's property and have a look at what's growing wild around there and at their land, their microclimate, and also do a little consult with them to get a sense of what their health needs are. And then I'll kind of work with them to help establish what are good plants, herbs to grow in your garden that would grow well where you are, and that then you can use to make your own medicine if you want. So borage is one that I will often encourage people to grow. And in fact, even if you're not looking to work with borage specifically as a medicine, it's a wonderful herb to grow because it grows very easily and it attracts lots of nutrients into the soil. It's a very nutrient dense herb. So it helps to feed your soil, and if you harvest the leaves, they'll grow back, and you can put them in your compost and they'll feed your compost. And then it attracts pollinators. It's got lovely blue flowers, as you saw in the photo, and those flowers are edible and they just make your summer salads delightful. So lots of wonderful things about borage, but borage is also a herb that is classified as an adaptogen. And so, for those of you who aren't familiar with the concept of adaptogens, you're getting more familiar as we talk about them. We're basically talking about herbs that will work largely on the endocrine system, a lot on balancing the hormones, often particularly in the adrenal glands, but the endocrine system is, everything relates to each other. So you're kind of influencing many different systems when you're working with the endocrine system. And so they work to help bring various systems in the body back into balance when they are a little bit off kilter. And that often means giving you more energy, giving you more immunity, helping you to sleep better, allowing your brain to function better. All sorts of different aspects of health can be improved with adaptogens. And so borage fits into this category. It is considered to be an adrenal herb. It will help to nourish your adrenal glands. And one of the ways that it does this that we know of is because it's got a lot of essential fatty acids, a lot of the main essential fatty acids that we need. And if you go to the health food store, you can buy borage seed oil, the cold pressed oil. Often it's made in capsules, and sometimes you can get it as an oil, made from the seeds of borage, which are just so rich in all your really important fats that will nourish your adrenal glands, that will reduce inflammation and support your brain health and do a lot of the things that adaptogens do. So that's one of the ways that it works. Borage, the Latin name is Borago officinalis. So Borago is Latin for the rough-haired ones. And also it has been said that concept of rough-hairedness in Latin also refers to courageousness, toughness. And there's an old adage that goes with borage, which goes, borage for courage. So borage is a herb that really we think of as, it helps to give you courage, helps you to face whatever it is that you need to address in your day-to-day life. And particularly, I like to offer borage to people who need courage because their day-to-day life has become overwhelming, often because they've been through maybe a particularly stressful period, maybe an illness, maybe a period of grief, something that's been pretty hard on them, and now their energy is lower, and just the idea of like facing the day is really difficult. And sometimes for people who have been through maybe a lifetime of challenge that has made it to the point where facing the day is difficult. And borage just offers this support. It just kind of holds you in its like furry, leafy grasp, like a warm blanket, and gives you the energy that you need to move forward. And in addition to that, I've seen it work really well to help people to sleep when they are when like the stress of the day is staying with them at night. So I've used it sometimes as a sleep remedy really successfully. So I think I'm going to stop there with borage. But yeah, with all of these, we could go on and on, right? So there.
Yeah, we can go on and on. There's so much more to say, which is why we're going to do the deeper dive in the 2-hour format so that we can get into all of the nitty gritty and the herbal nuance even further. I have just a couple quick questions I'll pass on to you tomorrow about borage. Someone's asking, can you eat the seeds as is?
Well, you can, but if they're not, it's, how with some seeds, like they have a really tough shell and it's hard to chew them and eat them. It's kind of like if you try to eat flax seeds whole, or, and they're pretty tiny. So you could, but you can eat the leaves and you can eat the flowers. And yeah, you get some of those essential fatty acids from them as well.
Awesome. Someone else is asking, what's the best way to take it? How do you typically offer it to your clients? Is it in tea format? Is it in tincture? Is it like, raw leaves and flowers when they're in season?
I encourage people to eat the raw leaves and flowers in season for sure. But more practically with my clients, I use the tincture a lot, just because it's so easy to take drops and whatever. I also have borage tea, and it doesn't have much of a flavor, so it can be blended with other more flavorful herbs, and it makes a really nice, like, calming but uplifting term. I saw Marianne commented, borage for joy. Yes, borage is a happy herb. It does, it gladdens the heart, as they have said about it. Yeah.
It does. It's a beautiful flower, and they're just that brilliant blue star shape in the garden it really is a joyful being. So thanks for sharing that, Tamara. Love the idea of more local adaptogens for sure. So next we'll move on to Penelope, and Penelope is going to share with us ashwagandha and why she loves it. Go ahead, Penelope.
Thank you. I thought I'd first start to just remind everyone that that which adapts thrives. So the purpose of the adrenal glands is to help our body cope with stress and to survive. So it's our fight and flight. And you may have discovered about yourself, are you a fighter or are you a person who flights? I'm a flighter. I'm not a fighter. So even to recognize what type of a person you are, and so it's all about our resiliency, our energy, our endurance. They're no bigger than a walnut. They weigh less than a grape, and they're sitting there just above your kidneys. So just a good spot to note that you can see where they are in your body and know that we're to take care of them. So not only do we eat healthy food to take care of our body, but we have to remember that we take foods and herbs to take care of different systems. So when you're healthy, I really would like to encourage you, and I encourage my students, to pick a system in the body, and the adrenals and the endocrine system as a whole is a really good place to start, and to just nourish and tone that whole system. You should be doing it annually anyway, and especially with this time, with everything that's going on with COVID-19 and physical distancing and staying at home, that is a very stressful time. And a lot of people are having a hard time coping. So to be able to have these herbs that are helping us is really important to get into the practice of taking and having in your home. And just to note that 75 to 90% of all doctor visits are for stress-related conditions. That is huge, to think that 75 to 90% of our healthcare system, money that goes to it is for that, when we could be at home, when we're healthy, restoring our systems and helping to take care of ourselves so that we do not get chronically ill by being overstressed. So getting to my herb, so ashwagandha root, Withania somnifera, which I just love that word, even it sounds so beautiful. And literally it translates to smell of horse. And to some people that may not sound very nice, but for me, to think of the smell of a horse, because I grew up with horses and have horses, that smell to me is strength and it's endurance. And it helps you remember the herb just by even remembering that little saying. So that's a good one for you to just remember. It's used in Ayurvedic medicine as a rejuvenative tonic to relieve general debility, especially during convalescing. It's a sleep aid for bad dreams, and it's a memory enhancer. So in a nutshell, because it's a nervine as well as an adaptogen, it's very calming for those people that you might know that are anxious, wired, tired, fatigued. Maybe you know someone who has cloudy thinking, insomnia, and everyone knows someone who's like that. If it's not yourself, you know somebody who that is. And for me, I have a real personal relationship with ashwagandha. It is when I think of it, it is my protector and my calming plant. Maybe 10 years ago, I went through a really hard and ashwagandha. I say I was on it. I used it. I used it in my food, and I took it as a and I honestly believe that it helped ground me and root me and help me move through this really difficult time with even some grace and, you know, calming. So anyone who's going through the grieving period with death or divorce or loss of job or any of those huge things that happen in your life, I would really recommend having ashwagandha in your daily routine of what you're eating, either in your food or in your supplements, if you take supplements, or teas. Actually, I don't use it as a tea. It doesn't taste very good that way. I use it mainly as a powder, and in a capsule is preferred, but also I will in a tincture if I have to. But just again, to really think of it as protective and calming. And then other great thing about it is it's one of those herbs that can be used throughout your life. Starting as a child, it can be used. It could be added to oatmeal as a gruel. It could, I got to speed it up. It could be used for teenagers. Teenagers are going through a lot of stress these days, so it's great for that. It's good for mothers with baby blues, for men. It helps not with sperm count, but it helps with stronger swimmers and stronger sperms of the ones that are present. It is also great for anyone you know that's convalescing, and even in old age for weakness. So it's just a great herb to have always. So again, I put it in smoothies. I make an ashwagandha latte. You can add the tincture into a water bottle. That's a great way to take it. I've done that, and that's phenomenal. So what can you do? You need to learn to manage our life, to ease the stress, so that's stress management, have some dietary counseling maybe, do some exercise, other lifestyle choices that can really impact your life and help with stress. But also I really want to encourage you to take some herbs that will be your friend for life, like ashwagandha is mine. So may you find your herb world and enjoy. And I will chat some more later about this herb at our 2-hour one. I think we're delving deeper. So that'll be something else we'll be getting into. So thank you.
Thanks, Penelope. Someone was asking, and Marianne did answer the question, but asking whether this is a longer term herb, like in terms of usage, or shorter term. And I just wanted to, maybe if you could just speak to that a little bit more generally in terms of things like ashwagandha and other adaptogens, so that people have an idea of what kind of time frame they're looking at in terms of what they should be expecting for, you know, when are herbs going to start to work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so for me with ashwagandha, I use it as a food as well. So just like any healthy food, I add it to my smoothies. So I'm not sure how often I have a smoothie a week, maybe 4 times, maybe 5 times, but I add a bit to every single smoothie I have. But then in my water, it's just how I feel. So if I haven't taken it for a long time, if some months have gone by, then I'll just take it for maybe a month. I might even take it for a month. And then I just would carry on still putting the little bit in my smoothie that I always do.
Yeah, awesome.
I just like to add about, you know, taking a herb. It depends, you know, if you're working with a practitioner and you select the right herb, you might not have to be taking a herb for a very long time. And, you know, to give a story about my experience with reishi, I started taking reishi years ago when I had this tightness and congestion in my chest, and nothing was seeming to resolve it. And I took my first teaspoon of reishi powder, and within a few seconds, it just melted away. And that issue never came back. And that was because it was the appropriate herb for that condition and for that particular time. And I didn't have to go on taking it for months and months and months, because it was correctly indicated with my body, with my emotional state. And so, you know, it's important to be able to work with someone who can accurately and precisely match you up with a plant, so that you find something that resonates, again, with the condition of the vital force as it exists in your organism.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a good point. Sometimes things can resolve a little bit more quickly, and then sometimes you might be needing to work with a herb for months and months and months over time, depending on what your situation is at. So there's no kind of one answer fits all for that, I would say, and that's again something that you would want to be working with a practitioner with to determine what's appropriate for you. So yeah, exactly. Penelope just said it's why we recommend seeing a registered herbalist to see what herb would be for you. It's just the best way to ensure sort of the best outcome for you, so that you're not kind of going around and being like, I read about this herb, I'm gonna try this herb. I was at the health store. Abra would like to say something. Go ahead, Abra. Oh, Abra, you're muted. Just unmute yourself.
Uh, Sometimes there's you have to address the cause of the chronic condition as well. And sometimes the chronic condition, the adaptogen is more like the tonic that helps rebuild the body, but there can be underlying conditions affecting the lack of resilience in the body, and those conditions need to be addressed. So you can take adaptogens and have, like, increase your energy and improve your sleep, better sex life, all that, but at the same time you're going to want to address what's underneath. So if you're carrying a heavy toxic load, you're going to want to accompany other herbs with those adaptogens, or if you're carrying a chronic infection. So it's not that, like, take this herb and it's going to solve everything for you, right?
Yeah, thanks for that. Again, that just speaks to more of the nuance that needs to be gone into to make sure that you can work with
Yeah.
something for your best outcome. Yeah, that'll support you.
Relationship. Back to the
Yeah,
relationships. Yeah.
absolutely. Exactly. Thanks, Abra. So we're running to the end of our hour together. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. If you do have some, just pop them in there and we'll see if that's something we're able to address really quickly. So just in the meantime, I just want to also again mention that we'll be doing this a 2-hour webinar on this exact topic. So adaptogens for energy, how to look at the bigger picture, not just, one herb for one condition, how we're looking at, maybe how we might need to include the nervous system in there and support that, how we might need to look at the digestive system, what role the immune system plays in all that. We're going to get a little bit more into the energetics of the herbs, maybe talking about cortisol, blood sugar, fat, lots of other juicy stuff. So if that kind of calls to you and you're intrigued about what we were talking about today and you want to go further down the rabbit hole, Abra's going to post the link to the Eventbrite event, and you are welcome to join us there. Again, it will be space limited, so first come, first serve. And what else do I want to say? I want to say also, oh yeah, mention it's $15. Oh yeah, it will be $15 because we're going into more extended format, a little bit more time, getting a little bit more into some herbal goodies. We will be charging a nominal $15 for that particular webinar, but you're welcome to join us and spread the word. So if you loved what we did, and maybe you want to join us at our webinar also, but there's a way that you can connect to our herbalists this evening, and Abra will put that up on the screen if you're not familiar with how to connect. So we've got everyone's website up. You can find out how to connect to them through social media. If you're like, yeah, that speaks to me, I'm exhausted or I'm tired, I have a thyroid issue or whatever, I need to work with someone. Most of our herbalists are offering consults. Some of them are offering pay what you can. So reach out and see what you guys can work out. If you're interested in studying with any of our herbalists, they also have offerings in person and of course online. And you can reach out and see what they've got to offer you as well. So yeah, once again, I'm not saying any new questions. Just want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you all, herbalists, Tamara, Penelope, Victor, and Marianne. Thanks for sharing your clinical gems, and we look forward to even going further down the rabbit hole next week. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Take care of yourselves this week.
Yeah.